item is to approve the minutes from March 19th, 2021 General Committee meeting.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Waters isn't on here yet, I don't think.
Okay.
We all got knocked off.
There he is. He's on there now.
Oh, good, good.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor of approving the minutes from March 9th, 2021, please signify by saying aye when your name is called, or nay. Mr. Waters. Mr. Waters.
I'm in, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, we're approving the minutes and you're up to vote on them. Would you like to vote nay or yay?
On the previous minute, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yay.
All right, Mr. Hayes
Yay.
and myself is a yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
That's all right. We'll get rolling here in a minute. Same problem, getting in, getting out.
That's a trouble.
Resolution 2021-20 is a resolution renaming Drakes Creek Park to the David J. Lamar Athletic Complex at Drakes Creek Park. I'll read the resolution to you. This is a resolution that I am the Parks Board liaison that the Parks Board voted unanimously on and asked me to bring before you to get to BOMA tonight. The resolution reads, renaming of Drakes Creek Park to the David J. Lamar Athletic Complex at Drakes Creek Park, whereas the Hendersonville Park Board voted unanimously to recommend the changing of the name of Drakes Creek Park, and whereas Mr. Lamar was voted into the Hendersonville Parks Board Wall of Fame in 2019, and whereas Mr. Lamar was one of the only 17 people to receive the Tennessee Recreation and Parks Association lifetime member status, and whereas Mr. Lamar helped out the Hendersonville Parks Department on a national stage, helped put the Hendersonville Parks Department on a national stage with the implementation of the Twitty City softball tournament. And whereas Mr. Lamar was instrumental in the construction of Drakes Creek Park North, Veterans Park, Volunteer Park at Arrowhead, Mary's Magical Place, and many other park facilities in our city. And whereas in 2010, Mr. Lamar coordinated efforts to rebuild the city park system following the devastating flooding, and again served as a consultant for the flood reconstruction in 2019. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Hendersonville that Drakes Creek Park is now be known as David J. Lamar Athletic Complex at Drakes Creek Park. I so move.
I'll second it.
Mr. Hayes seconds it. All right. Any conversation?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
did I hear you say it would go before BOMA tonight, not the 2 weeks waiting period?
I never said that. No, sir.
I thought you said it was going to BOMA tonight. I'm sorry.
Never said that, sir.
Okay. My bad. So it does go to BOMA in 2 weeks.
It does, if it gets to our committee tonight, it will go to BOMA in 2 weeks. I mean, if you want me to, if it does, I can add it tonight if you'd like for me to do that.
No, I just thought that's what you said. My bad. Don't worry. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I oppose the 2021-20.
Okay.
Just the same as I would. I'd pose the same one that my colleague brought up to the board several weeks ago about the Beatty Fire Department. I would oppose that one too. And I appreciate Andy Gillies' email to the board today. That's his right, but does not change my vote. To me, this whole thing makes me think about the administration in Washington trying to pack the courts before the 2022 election. Now, I'm a voice of Ward 6, and I listen to each one of them as they call me and email me. I received 21 emails from Ward 6 alone that says no to this appointment. Got a email today, and I want to share it. It's about.
Oh.
Hello.
Hey, Rachel, you are not, there you go. You got muted.
Okay.
Bless you for sneezing.
God bless her. The statement says, and we all got a copy, but I'm just going to read it anyway. I know there will be talk of renaming the park tonight. I propose to name Jim Lawson, a 32-year veteran of the Hendersonville Police Department who died last April due to COVID. He loved Hendersonville. Chief Miller even spoke at his memorial yesterday. I believe this is a nice gesture to someone who also loved this city and was willing to lay his life down to protect us. And I agree with that statement. So without going any further, Mr. Chairman, and since it will come before Boma in 2 weeks, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Do you have anything, Mr. Hayes?
Yes, sir. I just want to mention, I really want to honor our Parks Board, you know, in passing this along to Boma. And one reason is this is a voluntary board. They voted unanimously for this, for the complex to be changed by name to Dave Lamar. It's 100% voluntary board, and they're all appointed by our mayor. And I feel like this is something that the entire Boma should look at. It's a big decision. And personally, I feel very strongly about this issue, but I'd like to share that when we're at a Boma meeting. It does need to be looked at Boma, not just in the general committee meeting, in a 30-minute meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I would just like to say, as the liaison to the Parks Department, I also appreciate their work. I also appreciate Dave's work over the years in the Parks Department and Mr. Gillies now and everybody that has worked under them. So in bringing you this resolution, I also want to tell you that I support the resolution. And I would move that we accept it and move it to Boma.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Chairman Brown, could I correct something real quickly?
Yes, sir.
I don't appoint all the members of the Parks Board.
That's true. You don't.
Thank you.
You good, Mayor?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll pose this nomination. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to vote on it right now. So if you are for it and want to move it ahead to Boma, that would be a yay. If not, then that would be a no. Mr. Waters?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So that will move to Boma in 2 weeks. All right. Now we have an ordinance rezoning, or I'm sorry, amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 4, Chapter 3, Comprehensive Classification Compensation Pay, better known as E-Pay. We only have a few minutes, and we need to discuss this a bit. I understand it was discussed in safety. I am the sponsor of this because I was asked to sponsor it. I cannot tell you if I necessarily agree with it 100%, but what I will tell you as the chairman of this committee and a member serving on Boma is that we've been asked to hear this again, which I think is something we can do. But after we hear it here, and certainly want it to get to Boma, I want everybody to have an opportunity to ask questions and feel comfortable with this ordinance. As we did in October of last year, we passed an ordinance with an amendment, 12-1. We had 12 yeas and 1 abstention. So this ordinance was passed, and now we're asking to amend it again. So with that being said, I want to give the floor to Chris, and then I'd like Mr. Bradley to weigh in. Yeah, I see him down there. Okay, Chris.
Yes, sir. And for the sake of time, I'll give you the quick version because Lord knows this is not really a quick topic. The amendment passed back in October, yes, but I think what city leaders have learned, and this includes Mr. Harbsmeyer, I believe, if I could speak for him as well, is just we need some clarity as to what that meant. In terms of the language that we're really asking to be removed, but furthermore, just what the intent of the board was. The quick version of this is we have 14 individuals in our city who are paid right now at a higher level due to an inaccurate education pay. We call that E-Pay, if you've heard of that enough by now. Those people, this occurred back in 2018. That's more of a long story, but we made those people whole from a previous promotion where they supposedly lost money. At the end of the day, these people have an inaccurate e-pay designation right now. The significance of that is if you have an inaccurate e-pay designation, it allows you to be paid above and beyond the pay scale. And also by inaccurate e-pay designations, these people are basically paid higher than their educational requirement of the position as it relates to what their position requires, as well as what they currently hold. There was some significant difference of opinion and or interpretation based on what was done with the amendment back in October. It has recently surfaced again. And at this point, we simply need the board to basically clarify if these 14 people, upon the next time they have an employment change, such as a promotion, that's the most reasonable one that's most likely. If those people fall under our brand new promotions, demotions, and transfers policy, that was also recently done in 2020. Or do those people get to be, for lack of better terms, grandfathered in and keep these e-pay designations for the rest of their careers, regardless of promotion or what position they assume? So with all that being said, I do want to give Robert an opportunity to speak really quickly. I know we're pressed for time here, so we'll do the best we can. And I'm also happy to answer any questions. And I know Mr. Bradley may want to say a few words as well.
If I could, Chairman, I just had a couple notes, and I'll try and give you the quick version of what I have, but as well, the shortened version at least. But I want to call your memory or attention to two things that I think are really relevant and significant here, which are that we have had findings in 2 fiscal year audits that have noted actions taken that are not in compliance with our policies. As noted last year, and I think any other prior year that have had this, no findings have come from keeping things the same, from allowing things to continue as is, but as things change, as statuses change after that, my professional opinion says that an audit finding is very likely, or at the very least going to be considered and a deficiency. And the last thing I'll note on that truly is some of these inaccurate pay designations on the lifetime. We were looking at just a 5-year and pulling those numbers, and the potential impact truly over time. I'm not suggesting change things from the history of the city, but over time can cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the shortened version, I won't get into specifics, but that's truly all I really have. Thank you for the time. I think you're on mute.
Mr. Chairman, you there? Hello? What happened, Robert?
He's moving, but I think he's still on mute and trying to figure it
You're
out.
muted, Mr. Brown. There
I'm
we go.
sorry.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bradley, can you weigh in on this?
Well, it's the confusion was all as a result of an amendment that was put on ordinance 2020-33 back in October. On second reading, there was an amendment to the ordinance which was setting forth our e-pay policy. There was a concern, I suppose, by the board that maybe some people were going to have money taken away from them or whatever. And so this language was put in there: no current employee affected by this situation will be harmed by this new policy. And each employee's situation will be resolved on a case-by-case basis by the city administrator, the finance director, and the human resources director. And it says it may be grieved to the board of mayor and aldermen. Now that's incorrect. The tape does not say board of mayor and aldermen, it just says board. And I believe the sponsor of that meant the personnel board, because we don't hear grievances of any sort at the board of mayor and aldermen. And of course, if you want to get down to it, the personnel board doesn't have grievances about pay. So that was unfortunate that that amendment was made. What has happened since then is, what does it mean that no current employee will be harmed by this policy? We had a promotion that came up since this was passed in October. A few months ago, a promotion came up that involved e-pay. And the argument was made that, well, without this policy, this person would have gotten another step of e-pay. So therefore, he's going to be harmed. This person is going to be harmed. The question being, if someone's topped out, normally, this is very confusing, but normally if someone's topped out of their grade but they also are entitled to e-pay. They get e-pay over and above the grade. So this individual, to get his 7.5% promotion, which we also approved last year back in May, he would only get a 5% promotion because he would lose his e-pay designation. That's the interpretation that the current city administrator has. And I agreed that we could do it this way, was that for this one case, that could be viewed as harm. And maybe that's what the board meant. But we don't want to have to go through that with potentially 14 other cases. It just seems that I think that the maker of the motion was trying to clarify the ordinance. Instead, I'm afraid it ended up confusing it because of the word harm. Because if harm meant no one was going to lose their current e-pay, then that makes sense. But the question is, does no current employee lose their e-pay when they're promoted? And what we had done in May of last year, we had passed another ordinance that said that, you know, you would take your e-pay, that's going to make your base pay, and then you get 7.5% on top of that. But the constraint on that was so long as it's in your grade, as long as you haven't topped out. And that ordinance also said this ordinance applies to all promotions after June 1st, 2020. Well, the promotion we're talking about has been since June 1st, 2020, but it was also after this language about harm was put in ordinance 2020-33. And to me, one way to make sure that we don't have any more ambiguity about this, and everybody understands that this policy is going to apply to all promotions, and that doesn't matter if somebody is, quote, harmed or not, that it's the will of this board that, you know, if you top out, you top out. And the way to do that is to delete this paragraph about no current employee. That way, it's just an ordinance that deals with e-pay the way it makes sense to deal with it. No one's having anything taken away from them in this. That was, I believe, Mr. Taylor's goal in the ordinance, was to make sure that everybody who had e-pay, they got that same pay level without a designation as e-pay necessarily, if they no longer qualified for e-pay, but they didn't lose any pay, so that they would be in the right place for promotions. And if I'm speaking for you wrongly, Mr. Taylor, you can speak up. I think that was your goal, and that was the goal. And like I said, this amendment, I think, was intended to clarify it. Instead, it confused it by using that word harm. You muted.
Mr.
Brown,
Chairman,
you muted.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Mr. Bradley.
Okay.
Mr.
Hey,
Chairman,
anyone else on this? We got
Mr. Chairman,
several more things to jump into. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I move that we move forward. We're short on time. We've got several others to cover. So
Thank you.
with your permission, can we move on and bring it to Bowman in 2 weeks?
We can. That's a yes from you, Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
It'd be a yes from me. So it'll be in Bowman in 2 weeks.
Thank you,
Here's
sir.
what I would tell you, but I'll make that announcement when I make my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mr.
again.
Chairman. Thank you.
Now we have ordinance rezoning the property located on the west side of Sanders Ferry Road and the north side of Cages Bend Road, Hendersonville, Sumner County, Tennessee. I will move that to get it on the floor.
And I'll second it.
Hayes, thank you. Keith, where'd you go to? Keith or Grant?
Yeah.
One, two, probably Keith.
I'll just cover it real quick.
I know where the property is. I read everything on this ordinance, but I also read that the Planning Commission denied 5-4. And was there specific discussion that they just didn't want to rezone this for particular reasons, or it sits on the corner and they want to keep it commercial? But there was 5 no's. So
Yeah, there wasn't any particular overwhelming reason. I think there was maybe concern expressed that it might be multifamily, which either one of those zones, the current zone or the one they were going to, could also be multifamily. So there really wasn't much difference between those two zones, but there wasn't really a lot of specifics on why the denial.
okay. Any questions, Mr. Free?
No, I'm ready to vote on it.
All right. All those in favor of this rezoning, please vote in the affirmative when your name is called, or the negative when your name is called. Mr. Waters,
No,
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Okay, I would be a no. That does not pass.
thank you. You're muted again.
My fingers are too fat tonight.
Welcome.
Resolution 2021-16 is to adopt and recommend the Sumner County Coordinating Committee an amendment to the City of Hendersonville urban growth boundary of the growth plan for Sumner County ratified by the Hendersonville City Council pursuant to Chapter 1101 and Acts of 1998. I also move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Waters. Any discussion? All right, ready to vote. In the affirmative, yes, in the negative, no. Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Waters,
Yes.
myself is a yes. That passes. Resolution 2021, resolution amending the job classification list and pay table for the Parks Department.
So moved.
So moved. I will second that. Mr. Gilly, we're out there.
I'm here, sir.
All right, roll with it. You got about a minute.
In 1 minute, I'll tell you, this is not even somebody that's currently hired. This is an attempt to get the job where it needs to be so that when we're ready to hire this position, hopefully this summer, that we'll get good applicants for it.
Okay, this is after, this doesn't affect our present budget, but you will be asking probably for that in the next budget, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. No money
Okay.
involved in this at all.
This,
Right now.
This position's been sitting idle for what, 2 or 3 years now?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. I have no questions. Mr. Waters, do you have any?
No,
Mr. Hayes?
sir. Ready to vote.
All right. Mr. Hayes in the affirmative,
Yes.
Mr. Waters,
Yes.
and I'm an affirmative. That passes unanimously. Resolution to approve a final development plan for Bellsford Landing.
So moved.
So move, Mr. Hayes.
Second.
Mr. Waters is second. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Hayes in the affirmative, yes?
Yes.
No. Yes. Mr. Waters?
No.
No. Myself is a yes. It'd be 2-1, pass it. Resolution to approve the final development plan for Millstone Phase 13. So moved.
I'll
Second.
second it.
All right, any questions, any discussion?
Vote.
All right. Mr. Waters in the affirmative, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes by Mr. Waters. Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
I'm also yes. That passes 3-0. A resolution to accepting the dedication of completed streets and Hunt Club, Phase 9, Hendersonville, Sumner County.
So move.
Waters moves.
I'll
Mr. Hayes second. Any discussion? All right, we will vote. Mr. Waters, an
Yes.
affirmative? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Yes, and myself is a yes. We've got 2 or 3 minutes to spare. I didn't think we would move that quick, but we certainly did. I appreciate everybody's cooperation, their input. We will move on to Bowman meeting here in about 5 minutes.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mayor.
so much.
Chairman.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Move to adjourn. Somebody move to adjourn.
So move.
Okay,
I'll
second. All in favor, Mr. Hayes,
Aye.
Mr. Waters,
Yes, sir.